In this video, I'm going to walk you through how you can show all those emoji journal entries in a friendly way for the web. Since your mobile phone will generally always have a fixed width, it's easy to decide on a UI table view as the layout for your emoji journal with some styling. However, on the web, people might have a web page open to any possible width, depending on the size of their monitor. For this, you want to go with something that looks more like a UI collection view. I won't go into detail about the CSS and what's under the hood of the HTML. But you're using a CSS framework called Flexbox to organize your UI here. The CSS and everything is already organized for you. All you have to do in these last few videos is add the Swift and the HTML, and maybe even a little bit of JavaScript. Open up webclientroutes.swift. Delete everything inside your show client handler. The first thing you're going to do is modify your route for the web client. Up to this point, you've just passed a string to the web template via a context using stencil. You're going to make better use of that with this video. First, import CouchDB and make a private var to keep track of your database. Next, make sure you have a handle on your database. Otherwise, send a response to CouchDB is not available, which makes sense because you can't do much here without your data. Next, you're going to make use of your persistence function that you wrote earlier in this course and get all of the entries from the database. This is also a good spot to guard against your returned entries being nil from your database, and to send an error response if that's the case. Next, go ahead and sort the entries by date. Just like your mobile app, you want to make sure that whoever is viewing their journal entries sees their most recent entry first. Next, you're going to set up your context like before, but you're going to populate it with data from your journal entries. This is where the Swift dictionary comes into play and where Codable will hopefully take over soon. With this context, anytime you want to access a variable in the HTML, you just take the name you've assigned it here and put it in double curly brackets, like so. Additionally, one of these will cause the app to show an error. Scroll to the bottom of the class and add an extension to specify the background color of a cell in your web UI. Notice that you're using the last 6 digits of the CouchDB ID to decide the background color of a cell like a hex string. If you're wondering, no, I am not a designer, but at least this ensures each cell will be unique. Go back to the bottom of the code you've written in your route and render your response with the context you've populated. Alright, that should be all the Swift we need to write to get our data into the web page you are rendering. Now, let's add some UI in our HTML to make our UI look fancy. Run your application and check to make sure your client loads. Your client should load fine, and now you can make changes to the stencil file without having to constantly restart your app. First, in the title bar you wrote last video, delete the title tag you added. It won't show anything anymore now that you aren't passing the context from the Swift app. Next, below the menu container div, add another div and loop through the entries using your context. We can use stencil syntax to loop through a collection passed here from our context. This is where you can write HTML that is responsive to each new journal entry. Now, go inside your for loop and add this code to handle the layout of your journal entries. Note that where you would usually hardcode some values, or refer to it some other way, you can use things like entry.emojibg_color in brackets and entry.date in brackets to fill in values. Save this file. Try reloading your web page in a browser at localhost port 8080/client and take a look at what you made. You might want to use your mobile app to add a few new entries to see how the web UI responds and looks with some more entries, but everything is lined up there nice and neat for you. In the next video, you're going to add functionality to add a new emoji journal entry right from the web.